Hi there. As you can see, this is going to be another talk, and this is a talk about the COVID-19 conspiracy, the 5G, and the funny thing about this 5G is that I thought there's a lot of doctors that have actually spoke out against this, not systematic doctors, doctors that are you know that get funding or need the government. They care more about themselves than they do the world, and they will just repeat the official story, the official narrative. But there was 100 doctors in one hotel I was watching on YouTube last week in America, all speaking out against this about COVID-19. Now, some of them believe it exists, some of them don't, but there's a very good doctor called Dr. Andrew Kaufman who talks about, in his videos, he talks about the fact that you can't get a vaccine for this because it doesn't exist. He says that what they did is they took fluid from the lungs, according to Dr. Andrew Kaufman, in the first cases. But they took fluid from the lungs, took this, but they didn't. They're meant to put it inside a tube or something like that, and they have ways scientifically of flushing all the fluid out till you just get the illness. And that's what they have ways of doing scientifically. And then what you're meant to do, according to Dr. Andrew Kaufman, is you're meant to then inject it into rats or people. A lot of time it's animals, rats, things like that. But they never did that, right? This is what they never did, according to Dr. Andrew Kaufman, and they just assumed that there was a new virus killing people. But in this piece of genetic material which they took from the fluid from the lungs, that contains a wide range of reasons why one person could be fallen ill, and the tests for this genetic material, you've even had the American government saying that this test isn't accurate. It's 50% accurate. And if people have died, then I think, if you take away the virus because it's not proven to exist, right? Right. Okay. So you can't just go making accusations that there's a virus if you're not scientifically purified it. So we need to throw the idea of a virus out the window. What they're doing is a crime, actually. Saying something exists when it doesn't, that's a crime. What we should be questioning is all other possibilities. Now, you got to ask yourself, you're allowed to talk about the bioweapon theory. You're allowed to talk about the bat theory. You're allowed to talk about all these different ideas and theories about COVID-19. When, if it existed, really existed, they wouldn't be talking about theories. They would know absolutely where it came from. There wouldn't be any theories, would there? If it really existed, right? But it doesn't exist, you see. That's why there's theories. You see? Because like Dr. Andrew Kaufman said, they didn't isolate it properly, so therefore they don't know where it comes from. So, 5G. This is the one theory you're not allowed to talk about. And do you know that there was the Senate in America declared in 2019, I watched it on YouTube, they said that there was no scientific studies to back that 5G was safe. Right? That's no backed research to say that it's safe. But what we do know is that it's a military weapon. It used to be used to get rid of crowds, and crowds would feel like their skin was on fire. Right? It can also change. It can also tamper with moods. right? And just now at 60 gigahertz, what it does, what the 5G is doing just now, is what it does in general, it absorbs oxygen, meaning it deprives us of oxygen, meaning that if you're deprived of oxygen, not enough blood, and you will get respiratory problems, things like flus. I even read somewhere that watery eyes was one of the symptoms. Even in someone like hay fever, what's happening in hay fever? You're not breathing deep enough, therefore you get hay fever. This is something I used to suffer from, and still can do. And in hay fever, what's happening is you're not getting enough oxygen. That's why they've got a thing called oxygen therapy for hay fever, and it works apparently. So that's the thing. So this 5G is a very substantial theory. It's not really a theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. You know, we know that 5G does all these things. You know, and it's never been documented to be safe. That's the thing. I saw a write-up yesterday all against David Icke. And now you can say what you want about David Icke, but a lot of people that didn't believe in David Icke believe in him now. Because for 30 years ago, he said what would happen, and now it's happening. Right? So David Icke doesn't make theories up. I visit his website quite regular. And whenever I see new information, I'll look it up on the internet, and I find out that it's backed up information that he's saying. And so he's not an idiot. He doesn't make things up. He's a journalist from the BBC. When the BBC probably were a lot better. And so he does his research on things. So this person, you know, this so-called journalist that was trying to say things about David Icke, you know, that person just exposed themselves. You know, and what David Icke was saying in that interview, he was trying to criticize David Icke and saying he wasn't telling the truth. He says it wasn't just Wuhan; it was all different countries in China. All different town or cities in China that had the 5G rollout first. Well, he was still saying the truth. Wuhan was one of them. Wuhan was one of the first places. He didn't say first place in China. He said one of the first places in the world. So, you know, and this person also was trying to say that 5G is safe. And I mean, I have to use a rude word here. Retard. That is a retarded thing to say. Because we all know that radiation and especially electronic type of electricity kind of information with phones and that is not good for us. You know, someone burnt their ears out through putting headphones in. Yes, it's true. And because we are super sensitive to electricity. That's why you can be in a hospital, touch something or anywhere and you'll get electric shock. We're super sensitive. We are made of electricity, but our electricity is different from the phone type of electricity. So anything with phones, internet, Wi-Fi isn't good for you in general. And the 5G is basically, and this is a fact. It's like a microwave. And I watched this installer guy on YouTube who quit his job. He was a 5G installer, and they have to wear a radiation suit, by the way, when they're working with 5G. That's how safe it is. And he said that what it does is it just it absorbs oxygen, and it does what I've just said, that it absorbs oxygen, and therefore you will get respiratory problems and all sorts of health problems if you don't have enough oxygen. And do you know, people all around the world, there's actually, you can find videos on the internet of it, people have just been collapsing because of a lack of oxygen, right? And what happens then is when you have a lack of oxygen, you're going to get respiratory. That brings on flu-type conditions. And because what the lack of oxygen does is it lowers your immune system. And doctors have said this, that our immune system produces a thing, I think it's called exosomes. And these exosomes are produced in low immunity, right? So our low immunity produces illness. It basically produces illness. And 5G, like Dr. Patar says it, he's another good doctor. He's cured people of autism. Dr. Buttar, and cancer and all different things. And he said that the 5G, he doesn't believe 5G is COVID-19, but he said the 5G kills the immunity, therefore it can't protect itself. But I would say that it's a well-known fact as well that 5G, if your immunity is low, your immune system then produces illness by itself. I've had this myself. My immune system will be a little bit low or a bit low, and then I'll get a cold or something. This is what happens. So it could well be that COVID-19 does exist, like Dr. Buttar says, but 5G is making you so your immune system can't defend itself, or 5G could be lowering the immune system, and the immune system could be creating illness. That's what I think might be happening. That the 5G is lowering the immunity, therefore the immunity is creating illness. But I should be allowed to say that, right? The guy from London Real, Brian Rose, said it. He said, why don't we have some independent studies on 5G? Not systematic scientists that they're just going to repeat what the government wants them to say. Whenever you see people on television, the scientists saying, oh, this is safe, they all work for the government, right? They never have independent scientists on there because they would tell you what it is. Over 250 scientists and doctors all said no to 5G before it was rolled out. Because of the fact what it does. I mean, that's what we do know what it does, but what else can it do? That's only the information that I know, but it could do a lot more. Right? But they need 5G because 5G is the minimum requirement for the smart grid, right, in the AI system. When you do your research, online research on this, you find out that that's true, that this is the minimum requirement. And you see that it's like what they said in the 90s and 2000s, that this mobile phone technology and stuff isn't good for you anyway, right? Because we're so sensitive to that kind of stuff. And every time they renew it, it's more powerful. So you don't have to be a scientist and doctor to see the dangers of it. Regarding the COVID-19, the doctors have just been saying that everyone's got COVID-19, right? Because this isn't an agenda, and this isn't a conspiracy theory. We can all see that what people like David Icke said 30 years ago is coming to pass. He predicted a cashless society. No one wants to touch cash now. He predicted a new world order. He predicted the smart grid. He didn't call it that in the 90s, but he was predicting all these things. And he was right, you know. He was right in pretty much most that he said. And the people can see this. Do you really think people would come out and protest like this in this picture if it wasn't dangerous? I mean, come on. Think about it. Right? If this stuff wasn't dangerous, I'm sure then people got a lot better to do with their time than to be doing that if it wasn't serious. I get information, I get email newsletters sent to me regarding 5G, and I get information about all the stuff it does in it. What they're saying, it makes animals ill as well and can kill them. And they're saying that bees in certain countries have become ill with it. Because it works at different powers in different countries, you see. But when it's working at a slower radiation power, it's actually worse for us. It actually is worse for us, they say. And what it does is it microwaves our insides. That's what it does, and that's very bad for you. But what we've got to realise is that we are super sensitive to this. And it's not the 5G that's really the worst thing. It's actually what's coming after it. But I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Thank you.